My name is Julia. The phone has fallen silent after my father's quiet question, "How did this happen?" I take a deep breath and look out of the window, the cityscape blurring as memories flood back. It's been a while since the dust settled, but the journey from the shock of being fired to building my own empire is still vivid in my mind. I grew up in a family where business was everything. My parents, Richard and Elizabeth, had built a logistics company from the ground up. Richard was a charismatic man, always more interested in the big picture and the social side of business, like networking with influential people at fancy clubs. Elizabeth, on the other hand, was the numbers person, the CFO of the company. She was cold and calculating, always focused on the bottom line. I dedicated the prime of my life to this family business. I worked day and night, sacrificing countless personal moments. Birthdays were just another day at the office, and relationships crumbled because I was always on call. But I didn't mind. I believed in the company and saw it as my future. One of my greatest achievements was landing a major account with Summit Logistics. It took me 6 months of hard work, multiple trips across the country, and building a deep relationship with their CFO, Mark Thompson. I was there for them at every step, understanding their needs and tailoring our services to fit. This account was worth over $5 million a year, more than the next 3 clients combined. Then, one fateful morning at 6:30, I received a group text from my father. The message was short and cold. The board decided to restructure leadership. Your position is terminated immediately. HR will provide details. To make it even more humiliating, the intern, Lily, a 22-year-old we'd hired 4 months ago to handle our online presence, was also included in the text. I sat on the edge of my bed, still in the clothes I'd worn to close a small deal the night before. I read the text 3 times, hoping it was a mistake. I called my father, but he didn't pick up. So, I called my mother. She answered on the 4th ring, and her voice had that rehearsed quality, like she'd been waiting for my call. "It's a business decision, Julia. Your brother, Ryan, is taking over client relations. We think it's time for a change," she said flatly. Ryan was 26 years old. He'd recently started a tech startup that promised to revolutionize the food delivery industry but ended up burning through the large sum of money our parents had invested in it. He had no real understanding of logistics. He once confused a shipment schedule with a marketing plan in a company meeting. I asked my mother point blank if this had anything to do with Ryan wanting my position. She hesitated for a moment before saying that Ryan brought fresh ideas and energy, and that my approach had become too rigid with the leadership. I couldn't believe it. In the 12 years I'd worked at the company, I'd only pushed back twice. Once when my father wanted to cut corners on a long-term supplier, and once when Ryan proposed a hasty change in our delivery process for Summit Logistics, which I knew would jeopardize the relationship I'd built. I packed my desk that afternoon. No one from the leadership team came to say goodbye. Lily was the only one who gave me an awkward hug on my way out. I drove home in silence, my mind filled with all the sacrifices I'd made. The next morning, at 8 o'clock, my phone rang. It was Mark Thompson. "Julia, I heard you're no longer with the company. Is that true?" he asked. I kept my voice steady and told him I wished the transition team well and that I was confident they'd continue to serve Summit's account with the same level of care. He laughed softly. "Julia, you are the care. You're the reason we signed with your family's company. If you're gone, we need to re-evaluate our contract." I told him I appreciated his loyalty, but I had no intention of interfering. 3 hours later, my father called. His voice was shaken. "Summit Logistics has requested your contact information. Do you know anything about this?" he asked. I told him the truth, I hadn't reached out to anyone. But I also told him that maybe, for the first time, people were seeing who had really built the company's success. After that call, things started to fall apart for the family business. My father and mother called me, almost pleading with me to call Mark and reassure him. I refused, saying I wouldn't lie and promise something I couldn't control. Relationships like the one I had with Summit were built on trust, and Ryan simply hadn't earned it. Ryan tried to handle the Summit account on his own. He sent Mark a generic proposal that didn't even mention the customized terms we'd negotiated. Mark forwarded it to me with a simple note, "Is this a joke?" I didn't respond. My silence said it all. By the second week, Summit Logistics formally notified our company that they were reviewing their contract. Everyone in the industry knew what that really meant. They were looking for a new partner. My father showed up at my apartment unannounced one evening. He looked defeated as he asked, "What can I do to get you to help fix this?" I told him I had no interest in going back to a place that had discarded me for my brother's sake. He argued that it was for Ryan's growth, but when I asked him if Ryan could have landed Summit in the first place, he was silent. That silence spoke volumes. 2 days later, Mark called again with an offer. "Julia, our leadership has discussed this. We'd like you to consider consulting independently or starting your own firm. We don't want to work with a company that doesn't value you." That night, I thought about all the years of hard work, the sacrifices, and the lack of support from my family. I decided it was time to take control of my own destiny. The next morning, I called Mark back and told him I was going to start my own logistics consulting firm. He didn't hesitate. He said Summit would be my first client, and he also had 2 other companies in mind that were looking for a change. Within a month, I'd signed 3 clients, including Summit Logistics. They officially ended their contract with my family's company. My father called me after the contracts were finalized. His question, "How did this happen?" had been inevitable. I told him the truth. For all these years, people didn't work with the company's name, they worked with me. And when they couldn't work with me anymore, they followed the real value. I don't know what the future holds for my parents' company, for Ryan, or for our family relationships. But I'm proud of what I've built. It's mine, built on my name, my reputation, and my hard work. And no one can take that away from me with a simple text ever again.